Hey, what is up guys, TheKnowee here, and today I am continuing on with our Unity tutorial for beginners. This is episode number 3, and quickly before we get our video started today, I want to fix up something that I noticed in my last video, which is a total major goof. What I want you guys to do is quickly head over to edit. I need you guys to all click on preferences, and what I need you all to do is come over here to external tools, and you see this thing right here called external script editor. I need you to set it to Visual Studio 2019 community. Alright, so for those of you who are confused on why your Visual Studio wasn't working initially, it's because I'm a goof and I didn't have you set this. Alright, so go ahead and set this, and then once you set it, regenerate your project files. Make sure all of these are clicked, all of your check marks over here are clicked on so that it works. And then once you have that set up, it should immediately turn your mono behavior green, and if you were confused before and didn't Google it, that's why. So now, with that fixed, let's actually get back into this and make this work. Also, quick thing, if your grass blocks, you got your cubes. If you really want to, you can turn off the box colliders for your cubes on these ones right here. So if you want to, head into the prefab and turn off the box colliders and come back out, so that all of them have their box colliders turned off. You can also do that as long as the bottom one has its collider on. That is also another fix you can do real quick to your game that I noticed that would be a possible problem for what we're going to be doing today. So with all of those fixed up and ready to go, let's get back into making our game a game. And the first thing we need to do is, after we've fixed up all of our stuff, we need to declare something. Alright, so if we take a look in our code, right? We take a look here, we have a lot of getting components, right? We get the component in our jump height, we have the getting component right here, and then we have our getting component right here. That's a lot of getting components, and every single time you call a get component, it says, hey Unity, I need to get the component of the rigid body every single time, and that's pretty taxing on the system. So we're going to fix that up real quick, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to declare one more thing, right? So what we're going to declare, we're going to say private. Okay, you don't have to put private, but we're going to put private because why not? We're going to say it's I said rigid body, and we're going to name it rigid body rigid body component. Boom. Okay. And basically what that does is saying, hey, now this is a declared variable, like I said before, right? So we declare a variable up here. Now we need to set the variable, but since we don't need to set it every single time we have an update, we can declare it in start. So in start, what we're going to do is we're going to put rigid body component, and we're going to set that as the get component, rigid body, and then parentheses, caret. Now, what that allows us to do is we can copy, Control-C, our rigid body component. We can come down here to all of the times we declare the get component and set it as the rigid body component. So that one, whoop, don't go too far. That one, and Control-V, Control-S to save up, and the code will work exactly the same, right? We come back over here to Unity with our updated code. We still roll around and we still jump. It still works just the same, right? Now there was something I was going to fix right away, was this bug right here where we rotate, right? We can just rotate, right? And we don't want to do that. We want to just jump and stay on basically on our feet, right? So we're going to do that now. So we're going to head over here to the capsule. And if we take a look in the rigid body, if we go to the constraints, so let's open up our constraints, you will see these right here. We have freeze position and freeze rotation. Well, what does that do? Well, the freeze rotation freezes simply the rotation of the object, which sounds just like how I want it to be. So let's freeze the rotation on all 3 of the axes and see what happens. Let's play. Look at that, guys. But we can still jump infinitely, but that is okay. We just want to be able to jump and have him not rotate. Look, now we have a player. He's standing upright. He's not falling all over the place. That's perfect. But there's also one more thing we need to worry about. So if we rotate our view, we also have this z-axis, right? So our character can still move this way, right? We haven't constrained him from moving that way. So let's also do that because we're making a platformer. So go ahead and click the freeze position Z. And that basically is saying, just in case you collide with something that would move you, you're not going to move out. You're only going to move side to side or up and down. And that just keeps us from breaking the game and then doing all kinds of extra stuff. We don't want to go through that. So just go ahead and freeze that and save up. Now if we play again, jump. And now I can't move out, right? Which is perfect. I'm also, let me go ahead and scooch this in a little bit. Make this in, oh, I just made that 34. Let's make these easier of jumps. We don't want to make them impossible. All right, we don't want to do extra. Don't want to make us extra work, have extra work, right? So let's jump, jump. Oh, just barely made it, and jump. Perfect. And then, of course, our guy's a little fat, so he can't fall. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna grab this block. I'm gonna move it just a little bit. Same with these two, just a little bit. Move these two just a little bit. All right. Let's check how that feels. Jump. Okay, I can't make that jump and I still stick to the side. So what you can do, head back into the code. I'm going to change this 5 to a 7. Let's make it times 7. Head back over to Unity, press play. I didn't click play for whatever reason. Jump. Boom. And that feels good, and I can still fall to my death. It's a little hard there, so let's spread this out just a little bit. So, doop, and then, doop, there we go. And you have enough of jump to make it. So, after you're all set up with that, let's go ahead and save. Once again, always save quickly. After every single time you do some sort of big update, make sure you save, just in case. You never know. Alright, so now we don't want to jump in the air multiple times, right? We just want you to jump once, and that's all you get, right? We don't want you to go, oh no, I missed the jump. Let me just save myself. Whee! Right? Maybe 7 was a little much. Let's go ahead and set that back down to 6. Let's set that to 6. 6. Let's see how that feels. Head back to Unity, quickly. Check how that feels as a 6, right? So, jump. If you jump right, you'll make it. Yeah, you can make it. Jump. Jump. And then, play test it one more time. Jump! Oh! It's a little far. Perfect. Okay. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So, we don't want you to jump infinitely, right? If you fall in our little gaps that we've made, if you fall here, here, or here, we don't want you to be like, oh, haha, I'm not gonna die because I can jump infinitely, right? So we're gonna actually add some challenge to the game. Well, how do we do that? Well, there's the main way we're gonna take this approach is setting when you're grounded and when you're not grounded, right? So let's make one more wonderful variable up here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new bool, and we're gonna name it is grounded, and we're gonna semicolon or caret, whatever you want to call it. And basically we're gonna say if he's grounded, then you know you can jump, but if he's in the air, then you don't want to continue jumping, right? So let's continue on, right? So now that we have our is grounded, we're gonna make a new mono behavior, right? So we're gonna go down here to fix update, press enter 2 times, or we're gonna do a new mono behavior. So all what you do is click on collision, enter, and then double tap tab. Or I think you just have to single tap it. Double tap it just in case. And then what this is, basically what an on collision enter says is every time you enter into the collision, right? So what is a collision? It's when one collider touches another collider. That is a collision, right? So this is saying when you collide, well, what are you colliding with? And, where are you colliding? And what do you want to do when you collide? Okay? So now, whenever we enter a collision, we can set our isGrounded to true. Right? So, isGrounded is equal to true. Alright? But now we need to set it to false, right? So if what we learned in the last video, if we always set it to true, then we'll always be going in that one direction, right? When we set jump height to true, but never to false, then we just jumped infinitely. So what we're going to quickly do is make one more mono behavior, and that's on collision exit. Boom. So this is on collision enter, and then when you exit that same collision. And we're going to set, you guessed it, isGrounded to false. Well, that still really doesn't do anything for us, right? isGrounded isn't going to make it so that I can no longer jump infinitely. All this is saying is that I am no longer grounded, or am I grounded or am I not grounded? All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to head back to the fixed update, and we're going to set it to the work. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make an if statement. If, and I'm going to teach you guys this, if you guys put an exclamation point, what that means in an if statement is if not. So as with a regular statement, if it is true, right, if jump height is true, right, then this is saying if it's not, right, if it is not true, then do something, right? So if not is grounded, right? Well, what do we want to do if you're not grounded, right? So what are we doing? So we're going to put curly braces, and we're going to return. Well, what the heck is a return? So a return is saying if it is, so in an if statement, right? So if we meet the requirements of an if statement, right? So if the jump height is true, then we do all the stuff in it, right? So that we've met this requirement. Jump height is true, right? So if we take that into the consideration of are we grounded or are we not grounded, right? So if we meet that requirement, if we are not grounded, then we return. What is a return? Well, a return says, okay, if we meet this requirement, we're going to exit this method early, right? The entire fixed update, right? So the rest of this will not be called, right? We're not going to say, all right, jump, right? We're not going to say, okay, do this because we've met this requirement, right? But if we don't meet the requirement, so if we are grounded, then we can jump. We can say, okay, let's jump. Does that make sense? So that's what a return does, is it says, if we meet this requirement, leave the method early and do not execute any of this code. But if we don't meet this requirement, continue on. All right, we're on the ground. All right, we can jump. So let's go try that out. So make sure you guys are all saved up. Now let's go back to Unity and try this out. I press space. I can no longer jump infinitely, right? I can still move. Oh, but here's a glitch or a bug. So notice something here is I am between two colliders, right? So let's recreate it, right? So I can jump. I can no longer jump infinitely, but when I move, right, I can jump over the collider and I'll be fine, right? But I can no longer jump infinitely. But if I move into this middle collider area, I get stuck, right? No matter how much I press A and D, I'm getting stuck. Well, why is that? Well, that's because there's two blocks here, right? So that means there's two colliders. So when I'm perfectly in the middle of these two colliders, right, the base of my capsule is still fairly large, right? So if we think about that, right? So our capsule's base is pretty large. So when it touches this area, it's colliding with both of these colliders, and it's saying, well, I don't know what to do, right? It's saying, help me, I'm stuck, right? So what that basically is saying is this approach, yes, it works, but it will not actually truly work because we want to be able to slide our happy little booty all the way over here to the end, right? We want to make it here, but we can't make it here if we get stuck between colliders. So let's make a new approach. So we're going to head back to our code, and I'm going to get rid of our on collision enter and exit. Go ahead and get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of our if is grounded, and I'm going to get rid of the Boolean is grounded. So we're back at square one, right? But I just wanted to teach you how on collision enter and exit worked. Now let's make it actually work, right? So we need to go and make it so that we don't get stuck, right? So we're going to make something called a inspector ready item, right? So in code, you can declare a variable, right? And you can see it in the inspector, right? So all of these pieces of code right here, I cannot see in the inspector. No matter how hard I look, on the player script, they're not going to be there. But you can declare a variable and have it be seen. And there's two ways to do it. You can either declare it as a public, right? Public, and then whatever you want your variable to be, which in our case is going to be a transform. And then we're going to say the ground check transform, right? And that will reveal it to the inspector. So if we go back to the inspector, boom, ground check transform. But there's one more way, and the proper way to say, okay, this is a ground check transform is if we go over here and change our public to, oh, I did a curly brace, whoopsies, serialized field, and then boom. Basically that is saying this is a serializable thing, show it in the inspector, but the difference between a serialized field and a public is a public makes it available to multiple scripts, like I've said before, but a serialized field says this is only available to this script. No other script may access it. It is only available to this script. Now, let's go back to Unity. Now, we need to make it so that this player, or I'm going to rename him player, so let's name him player. Oh, I'm going to name him play capsule player. Alright, we need the player to have a transform on the bottom, right? Because now we have this transform, right? So we need an actual transform. And remember what a transform is? It is the position and rotation and scale of an object. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click. We're going to create a 3D, actually no, we're going to create an empty. And I'm going to name it, if I can, there we go. Ground check transform. Okay, and then what I want to do is with this ground check transform, I want to move it down to the feet of our player, which is at -1, which is at the feet of our player because the center of the mass is at 1, so we move it down 1, and it's perfectly there. All right, now we need to make it so that this actually is the check transform. So how do we do that? Well, you're going to grab this ground check transform and we're going to drag it. So click it and drag over to the player script. And where it says ground check transform, you're going to click it in. It's going to apply it here. And that basically says, okay, now I know that what this ground check transform is this. All right. But we're not done quite yet. All right. Now we need to make a new if statement in order to make this work. So we're going to head back into Visual Studio and we're going to make a new if statement. Now we're going to do that in fixed update. We're not going to do that in update. We're making it in fixed update. So we're going to do that and we're going to say if, and we're going to access the physics engine. So physics, and then we're going to do dot overlap sphere. All right. And basically what this is saying is I'm going to create a tiny little sphere, and that's going to check if I'm overlapping a capsule collider or a collider or anything like that. All right. Now we need to input more stuff. All right. So what's it looking for? It's looking for a vector 3 position, and it's looking for a float radius. Well, our vector 3 is our transform, so we're going to do ground check transform. And then we're going to do dot the position, comma, and then we're going to do our radius. Well, how big is our radius? Let's make it pretty small, 0.1. Now, it's still going to yell at me for the 0.1, and that's because whenever you're using a decimal, you have to make it a float. or declare it as a float in order to make it work. Now we need to do one more thing. So if we go out here, we need to define the length of how big, basically how many things is it going to be colliding with, and we're going to set that equal to 0. Now we add our curly braces, and now we're going to return. So what this big line of code that I just made in fixed update says is, in the physics engine with a sphere, we're going to create a sphere at the ground check transforms position, and it's going to be 0.1 of a unit big, and it's going to check, and it's going to look at the 0, like, so if it's touching 0 things, then it's going to return, right? So let's go try that out. So if we click play, wait a second, I can still jump infinitely. Why is that? Well, if you think about it, right, we've created a tiny little sphere at the very, very bottom of our player, right? Which means it has a circle radius, which means it's going to be colliding with our player no matter what. So what that means is we need to up this number, the 0, by 1. So we're going to up that by 1. Let's save that up. And basically this is saying now it knows it's going to be colliding at least with something, but then if it's not colliding with anything else, then we're only going to jump once. So let's try that out. Jump. Jump. Look at that, guys. We can no longer infinitely jump. However, there's still one more bug we're going to need to address. Oh, I fell. Hold on, let's see if I can recreate it. So if you fall off the edge and then... Oh, no. Look, hold on. There's a way to do it. Sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't. Let's see if I can do it. Oh, that's another one, too. So, I don't know if you guys noticed this, right? But when I jump, I can't control where I jump, right? When I jump, I just jump in one direction, right? So I'm going to jump. Oh, I still don't make it. All right, let's close this gap a little bit. Just a tiny bit. Little nudge. Let's try it now. Jump. Ooh, look at that little bug I just found. So right here, it still hits it and then sticks. Why is that? Does this have a collider? Let's look. Nope, it doesn't have a collider. Oh, I know why. Okay, so that's also another little fun bug that we still have. So when we jump and then we just touch the edge, what now it's doing is saying, oh, I'm touching multiple colliders, right? Even though the grass is is a tiny little collider, right? It's still going to cause a problem. So we're going to fix that in the next video when we address some more bugs. But now, in our game, we have it so that our player will only jump once. So if you guys want, you guys can design your level so it's like a little bit more fair. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease the size of my dude on his X. I'm going to make him like 0.5, right? So he's more of a tall dude. Yeah. That's also a thing, is the collider. It's still going to be pretty big, so let's edit our collider. Our radius is 0.5. Let's decrease the radius to like 0.3. And then let's also decrease his Z to 0.5. So he looks more legit. Let's go. Do. Boom. Hey, there we go. That's also a thing. So let's say you guys get stuck, right, on a collider. You guys can adjust your mainline collider so that it doesn't get stuck on stuff like that, right? Oh, I didn't make it. So go ahead and level design to your heart's content. Make a cool little game. For now, we're going to go into the next video fixing some more bugs that may be present, right? So if you notice something that maybe it's the collider you need to fix, or maybe it's something else you need to fix, go ahead and fix it real quick. But in the next video, what we guys are going to go over is how to layer filter this player, right? So there's one more way we can make him jump only once, and that is with this layer button up here to the top right. So we can set the player to a layer, right? So we can set him to player, right? We can make a layer and say that he is the player layer, and that his collider is this ground check transform only it ignores the player, and it only checks if there's colliders on everything else that isn't labeled as a player. So that's what we're going to cover in our next video. I hope this helped you out a lot. We're getting a lot more advanced into the code, as you guys see. Obviously, this is getting a lot more intense. We have a lot going on here, but I hope you guys have been able to follow along and understand truly how it works. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.